Hi, my name is Katie Woods, and today I will be talking about poisonous plants for horses. I know we've already discussed clover in class and how it's a bit toxic to horses, but this is because of a fungus that grows on the clover, not necessarily the clover itself. Clover is a very mild toxin and only causes excessive salivation and drooling, and you can fix this just by providing the horse with plenty of water and removing them from the pasture. Aside from clover, there's a few other plants I would like to discuss today that are toxic to horses that you should really be aware of if you have your horse turned out in a field. The first plant I would like to discuss is the nightshade. Nightshades have small, white, star-shaped flowers, but it's the unripened berries which are highly toxic. Nightshades cause neurological symptoms such as drowsiness, rapid heartbeat, a lack of coordination, and most commonly the paralysis of the back end. They also have some gastrointestinal symptoms like colic, and they cause trembling of the muscles. Nightshade is dangerous in that it can cause death in a few days or sudden death depending on how much is ingested. That's why if ingestion is suspected, a veterinarian should be called as soon as possible because there is a chance of recovery. It is highly recommended that you remove all nightshade plants from the fields. Next is the heather family. This family includes the rhododendron, azalea, and mountain laurels. These plants are considered poisonous because of a toxin called granotoxins, which inhibit normal cell function. These toxins are in all parts of the plant, with the greatest concentrations being in the leaves. Symptoms of this poisoning include stomach irritation, abdominal pain, excessive salivating, abnormal heart rate and rhythm, convulsions, coma, and even death. If you suspect that your horse has ingested any of these, it's suggested that you contact your vet as soon as possible. There's not a treatment, but supportive care is available and there is a chance of recovery. Next is the poison hemlock. The poison hemlock is poisonous not only to horses but to other livestock as well. This is a biennial herb with toothed fern-like leaves with small white flower clusters and stems with distinct purple spots near the base of the plant. This plant contains neurotoxins in the leaves, stems, and the seeds. The symptoms of hemlock poisoning include loss of appetite, excessive salivation, bloating, fast but weak pulse, muscle tremors, extreme abdominal pain, frequent urination, paralysis, and death. It's important to note that poison hemlock is very toxic, and the lethal amount is usually ingestion of about 4 to 5 pounds. So control for this plant is very important. Poison hemlock is found all over North America, usually in roadsides and ditches, so it's important to keep pastures mowed and weeded, even though usually animals try to avoid poison hemlock as it's not very palatable. Next is the poison. This next one is extremely toxic, but it usually only affects horses and ponies. This is the red maple. The red maple is a medium-sized tree that can be identified from its bright red-stemmed leaves containing shallow notches. The red maple leaves turn a distinct red in the fall, but it's the wilted or dried leaf consumption that's toxic. Toxin in the dried leaves damages hemoglobin in red blood cells, which hampers the ability to transport oxygen. This results in symptoms such as weakness, depression, increased heart rates, difficulty breathing, jaundice, dark urine, or death. As I mentioned, this is extremely toxic, with consumption as little as 1.5 pounds resulting in death, which is usually about 75% of cases. That's why control of this is so important. For controlling this, it's recommended that you minimize access to these plants and to provide adequate forage so horses are not tempted to eat these leaves off the ground. And as with the other toxins, notify your vet immediately if consumption is suspected. Last is the yew. The yew is a woody evergreen shrub with bright red or yellow berries. The yew is probably the most toxic I want to talk about for this presentation. All parts of this plant are toxic, even when dried, and this is especially high in the leaves during the winter. What makes this plant poisonous is a toxin called taxine, which is a toxic alkaloid. This toxin causes cardiac collapse and respiratory failure. Death can occur within a few hours, or with a single mouthful of yew needles, it can be lethal within minutes. Common symptoms of yew poisoning are muscle tremors, incoordination, and difficulty breathing. Currently there is no treatment, so contact a veterinarian ASAP, and be sure to avoid all contact with this plant. We can't always watch our horse all the time, so it's hard to know what they eat, but if you do see signs of any of these toxic plants, be sure to remove your horse from the source and call your veterinarian. It's also a good thing to determine about how much the horse has ingested, because the amount really determines if support care can be given and how serious it is. With most of these toxins, I mentioned that there is no treatment, but for some other plants there are specific treatments. For others, it's just treated symptomatically. So it's really recommended to feed adequate forage in order to discourage your horse from grazing on weeds or other plants that could be potentially harmful to them. And I only covered a couple of plants, so if you're concerned about your field, there are resources to help you. You can contact your local veterinarian or your local extension office or universities for help identifying poisonous plants. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just drop a comment and I'll try to get back to you soon. Thanks.